And welcome to the show, folks. It's a beautiful day over the Middle East, and we have just left Dubai. We're in my trusty F16, and we're heading across the desert to Fujairah. The UAE is an interesting country next to Oman. Then what happens is the coast heads north. The UAE has a little bit of coast, and there's a slight coast towards the top which belongs to Oman. But anyway, the UAE, it tells a different story from up here. Industry, desert, coastline, it's all connected. But today, as you can see, I'm heading east, as I said, towards Fujairah, following one of the region's most important energy routes. Now, this is especially important considering what is going on in the world right now, and Iran closing the Straits of Hormuz, and America in a joint war with Israel. We've left Dubai, as I said, and the skyline is faded behind us, and we are out in the desert. Now, the city gives way to the open desert reasonably quickly, and then the terrain starts rising. So in front of us, you're going to see the Hajar Mountains. Look, they're on the map. Okay, so there we are. There's the Hajar Mountains, and now we're heading towards Fujairah. The landscape changes quite fast, really. Rugged ridgelines, dry valleys, and hidden beneath them is a critical piece of infrastructure. I bet you didn't know this. Beneath runs a major oil pipeline stretching from the Gulf Coast across the mountains all the way to Fujairah. And it's a route designed for one purpose: to bypass the narrow choke point further north, which is the Straits of Hormuz. Whoa, what a shot! Look at me go. Now, a bit of history. It was built to move oil without relying on the Straits of Hormuz. The strait is obviously one of the most important and most vulnerable energy choke points, as we are seeing throughout the world. At its narrowest, it's a few dozen kilometers wide. Any disruption here, for example, political, military, what you're doing or otherwise, can impact global supply within hours, and we have seen that. This pipeline changed that equation, right? It allowed oil to bypass the strait completely, flying directly to Fujairah, where it can be stored, loaded, and shipped straight out from the Arabian Sea into the Indian Ocean, and then obviously throughout the world. From here, it's almost invisible. Its impact is anything but. Right, as we break out the mountains, the coastline appears, and there it is below us. Fujairah, big landing strip, difficult to land at due to the mountains, deep ports, ready for tankers. Yeah, someplace. Unlike Dubai, this is less about skyline and more about strategy. Ports, storage terminals, shipping lanes, all positioned outside the Straits of Hormuz. Every day, millions of barrels of oil pass through this region. Fujairah offers an alternative, a way to move that energy without relying on one of the most sensitive waterways in the world. Alright, from here we're going to head north. We're going to follow the coastline towards the strait itself, so you get a really good idea. The map will be popping up. You'll be seeing where we are. The mountains are falling away behind us. The sea begins to open up, and ahead lies one of the most strategically important stretches of water on Earth. So let's see what it looks like above the clouds. Alright, hard climb up through the clouds. I'm greeted by a fantastically beautiful blue sky. Let's have a little bit of fun with our aircraft. Yeah, come on. She's so beautiful. Hard climbing there, fantastic. It's just a joy flying this aircraft. All right, leveling out, and we'll see what we can see. Over to our left, you'll see the tip of Oman, which is the south end of the Strait of Hormuz. We've seen a few tankers below us. They move steadily along the coast. Like, these things are massive. They're massive deliberately, and they're rarely in a hurry. Each one carries a cargo that connects directly to global markets, as we've said, thousands of miles away. From up here, they seem slow and, almost static, don't they? But together, they form one of the busiest corridors on Earth. So what we're going to do, we're going to drop below the cloud layer. We're going to look at the detail. It's going to sharpen. The water darkens. I'm going to bank left. And it becomes more defined. We're going to stay close to the Omani side, tracking north towards the narrowing horizon. Okay. Look at the map. There you can see. All right, here we go. It's not quite at its narrowest yet, but we're going to get there very, very soon. We're sticking close to the coastline of Oman. Look over there. There's Iran. Doesn't look like much, does it? At its narrowest, the corridor is only a few dozen kilometers wide. Yet it carries like 1/5 or 20% of the portion of the world's energy supplies. So yeah, not only petrochemicals, but refined fuels, metals, food products and general cargo pass through the strait, but energy ships do dominate. Here we go, sun's going down, beautiful. Now the traffic through the straits is tightly controlled. Inbound and outbound lanes, they run parallel to each other, separated by a narrow buffer. Right, I'm going to pull a hard left. Altitude's good, under 10,000 feet. So now we'll be coming up to one of the narrowest points in the strait. And all the tankers, container ships and naval vessels all have to move with precision in this confined space. From above it appears orderly, right? But the margin for error here is very, very small. It's a narrow stretch of water, but it's one defined by decades of tension, surveillance and strategic interest. So it's not just a shipping route, it's a line of influence. Now there's the islands on my left, that's the tip of Oman, and on the right, Iran. And we're flying straight down the middle of it. You might be able to spot a couple of little tankers down there, the ones that have got through or are attempting to get through. Now the strait is continuously monitored, as I'm monitoring it today. Naval patrol, surveillance systems and air assets, being me, all play a role in maintaining the security and freedom of navigation. Much of that presence is subtle, but it's always there. So just for reference, look, on the map you can just see there's a lot of air bases on the UAE side, especially the biggest one being Al Dhafra, UAE owned, but the US and most of the allied countries being UK and Australia also have a presence there as well. Okay, we're moving out of the most narrowest part of the strait, and we are heading towards what's called the Tunb Islands, Greater and Lesser. Now these islands are controlled by Iran and they are claimed by the UAE, and as you can imagine they're a very sensitive area, being stuck right in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz. Whoever controls these islands actually does have a lot of control over the strait itself. And even to a degree, you can see why countries want to, cash in on the Strait of Hormuz. So we're going to aim for a landing in Greater Tunb. For sense purpose here, we're going to say the Allies control it at the moment. Look at that. Doesn't look very much, does it? Okay, time for a flyby. Before I have to get my backsiding gear. Oh, wicked, man. Alright, need to get settled up for landing now. There it is, Greater Tunb. Tunb is positioned in the strait itself, right in the middle. There's not much to it, really. Every vessel moving through this corridor passes within the reach of observation. That's why it's so important. Okay, let's get back to landing.
Warning.
Whoops, need a bit more speed. Looks like a bit too much talking and not enough concentrating, so give me a second. Pull it back all in line. Okay, bit more power, lower the nose, and we'll get it all back together. That's better. Look at that shot. Fantastic, right? The island's beginning to grow bigger in the windscreen. Alright, air brakes are on. As you see, the island is totally surrounded by water. It's not the biggest runway in the world, so you really don't want to mess this one up. The approach is pretty straightforward, but exposed. There's no terrain to shield us. Wind and visibility become the primary factors. Runway's coming up fast in the screen. Alright, line up with the runway, stabilizing speed and descent rate. Final checks, probably a bit low. Right, I'm holding a steady glide path. Here we come. Keeping it centered. Ooh, bit of oscillation going on. Alright, this is always the hardest bit, isn't it? Ground rush. That's the one. Nose up, flare, flare, flare. Nice and gentle. And we are down. All three wheels on the runway. Now that wasn't a bad landing. Okay, on the brakes. Let's slow us down before the end of the runway. Excellent. Very pleased with that. Opinions in the comments, please. And here we are. Tunb Island. And what we're going to do is we're just going to come to the end of the runway, and that was our show for today, folks. So thank you so much for coming here to the Straits of Hormuz with me today. Hope you learned something and enjoyed the show. I'll see you next time. I'll catch you later.